Okie pokey weirdos, I'm Rev, and welcome to my world of fandom shenaniganery. Our topic for today, was this kiss consensual?
Eat this!
Okay, that's enough. Based on the extremely polarized rants I've gotten in comments thus far over this topic, I'm going to say this right now. If either one of these answers is going to cause you to go into rage monster mode and bust cap locks down in my comments, I need you to turn this video off and work on your mental health. Please. This scene was very triggering for a lot of people, and the concept of consent, as well as other topics that go along with it that are not so YouTube friendly, are often triggering topics as well. While the actual definition of consent is this from various different sites, it is very difficult to put into proper practice as well as that exact definition in real-world circumstances because humans are complex beings, not to mention that this video we're going to be looking at the complexity of a relationship between an angel and demon, which is a whole nother circus of madness. On my last video about the kiss, I gave a quick little no, so let me explain my answer because it's not actually a total no. It's neither black nor white.
Shades of gray.
I've already explained in other vids that I had a PTSD reaction to this kiss, which meant there was some element in the scene that caused my body to tell me that this was not a safe situation. And yes, I will continue to talk about PTSD and anxiety in this video because it is important to my answer. Although I am highly aware that my PTSD does cause me to have more extreme or exaggerated reactions compared to the more commonly minor actualities of a situation, while my feelings are real, they are severely heightened due to past experiences. So realizing that was the little spark that turned into a flame that is this analysis. Doing these breakdowns and analyzing characters is actually one of the ways I learned how to cope with my emotional and mental struggles. My therapist has told me she loves how easily I can connect fictional characters' lives to my own and am able to break down certain aspects in a non-personal way first so I can put it together for myself later on. Therefore, that is what this video is, and I hope it can help some people make those connections healthily and more safely by looking at events and feelings through a fictional lens. However, if this video is going to strongly trigger you in any way, I promise that my video is not worth any kind of detriment to your mental health. Please take care of you first. Everybody feeling called out now? Great. With that long-winded trigger warning out of the way, let's get down to this answer. Was this kiss consensual? My reaction to this kiss initially being a PTSD-driven near panic attack was because Crowley gave Aziraphale no real warning this kiss was going to be initiated. My reaction was largely due to the physicality of the initiation. So let's start with body language. I should probably mention that while I've studied human body language, I spent 6 years in dog training, so that is where a lot of my simplified animal habits related body language knowledge is coming from. Starting right here, Az is avoiding eye contact, which could be considered him claiming his space bubble. Our angel friend is dealing with a lot of emotional struggles right now, and he's trying to make sense of them, and he's also using turning away as a method to hide his tears. Avoiding eye contact as well as turning away are common displays of discomfort, usually meaning don't look at me, don't talk to me, don't touch me, and don't come near me. By walking up to Az and grabbing his collar, Crowley broke 3 out of the 4 space bubble rules. And yes, I'll get to this parallel in a minute. I'm building up these walls first so that I can knock them down later. Now, people yanking me around by the collar, not my preference, so this forceful movement Crowley uses to cause Aziraphale to look at him would not be fun for me. Az has his little WTF shudder, and suddenly there's a realization in his eyes. He pushes into the kiss and his hand comes up in consideration of touching the demon's shoulder, comes back down, then finally both hands come up to embrace Crowley. This is where consent is fully given, with Az joining the kiss and returning touch. The initiation of the kiss not being expected and it being more than a little surprising for Az was largely what caused my panicked reaction. The first maybe second and a half of Az asking WTF, I'm thinking, yo bro, maybe now is not the time because you're invading my space bubble and I put that up for a reason. However, Az finally gets comfortable enough to go, actually yes, I accept this kiss, along with his little returned embrace. Consent has been given finally, and they are interacting together in a mutual experience. Perfect, good, we like it. Where Where I have another issue is Az lets up slightly on the lip lock. He pushes in once, slightly backs off, but on realizing Crowley is not letting up, he pushes back in, extending the duration. Even with the second lean in being another acceptance and consent giving action, this one I was more iffy on, because this is where I feel Crowley should have stopped and let go of Az a little bit sooner than he did. My reference for this kind of consent is what I call Disney hug rules. It's based upon the concept of what costuming actors in the Disney parks have to keep in mind when hugging children so that consent is properly given for that type of physical contact. The rule is that you only hug them if they want it, and then you hug them for as long as they need. If the child continues to crush you, go ahead and continue hugging them. But if they start to let go, the actors need to release as well. Crowley not checking in with Az before smashing their faces together could have turned extra problematic if consent hadn't been given further along in the kiss. As well as, when aziraphale lets up a little, Crowley still continues to go full throttle. He does let go of him within the next couple of seconds, but it's still a realm of discomfort for me. I've seen arguments for this being a non-consensual kiss, painting aziraphale as a victim. I personally really have a hard time believing that he's any kind of victim in this particular situation because of this parallel. And I'll throw in some science behind it too. When we see Crowley aggressively grab Az's collar the first time, aziraphale might be a little surprised, but this doesn't seem to have him worried about his safety. He simply waits for Crowley to cool down, then adjusts his collar and goes right back to the conversation because he trusts Crowley enough not to actually physically harm him. He's used to this kind of behavior from Crowley. He accepts it and knows that that's part of who Crowley is. And aziraphale continues accepting these kind of behaviors from Crowley throughout the series. Sudden movements, aggressive attitudes, it's all part of who he is and how he likes to try to hide some of his more positive aspects. And you can usually see it on Az's face where he's like, "You'll get there, sweetheart, I know you will." Because Crowley is growing out of his evil, hellish behaviors the longer he stays on the Earth plane, similar to how Az is going native himself the longer he stays on the Earth plane. So now, in rewatching this scene in slow-mo repeatedly to break down the consensuality of the situation, when Crowley grabs a hold of aziraphale's collar, I can see Az thinking, "Oh geez, here we go again," not the collar thing. But then Crowley adds the unexpected lip lock to an action that aziraphale had grown accustomed to. So, with this new element added to what was originally considered a normal behavior, it would be understandably confusing, and it takes the angel a moment to put the pieces together. While I know that plenty of victims of forced physical contact do experience moments like this and feel that there is no way for them to be able to safely react and/or protect themselves, because that fear is real and we are not trying to victim shame here in any way. This is more about how I do not get a sense of victimhood from aziraphale in this moment. To understand what it is to be a victim in a physically and/or emotionally unsafe situation, I collected a little checklist by combining information from across multiple sources. While this won't fully encapsulate any one person's experience, a checklist will do the job for my explanation here. Firstly, we have the person we'll call the manipulator. Because YouTube doesn't like the actual word. This manipulator is known to have a repeated pattern of behaviors used to maintain power and control over the victim. Let's see if Crowley has this level of power and control over aziraphale.
How much? Are you sure? Are you sure you're sure? Quite sure. How much?
Yeah, no. He wishes. Specific patterns the manipulator practices would be actions like embarrassing you in front of people. Crowley actually tries to get aziraphale to stop embarrassing himself on a regular basis. Putting down accomplishments. Crowley tries his best to be supportive.
What you just did is remarkable.
Make you feel like you are unable to make decisions for yourself. Az makes his own decisions just fine.
You're sure? Quite sure. How much?
Intimidation or threats to gain compliance. Crowley might use intimidation, but it obviously doesn't work. They tell you that you are nothing without them. Kind of. They go back and forth on this with each other. It's really a shared effort.
Getting my stuff and I'm leaving.
Or I'll never talk to you again.
I won't even think about you.
Treats you roughly. Grab, push, pinch, shove, or hit you. Rough? Yes. Grab? Yes. Push? Yes. Pinch? No. Not that we've seen. Shove? Yes. Hit? No. They prevent you from doing things you want. Crowley gives in way too easily to Aziraphale's wishes. They try to keep you from leaving after a fight, or leave you somewhere after a fight to teach you a lesson. Crowley does leave this fight, but he also makes himself available for Aziraphale to come back to and talk again, so that it's not at the same level as a punishment as it is for Crowley needing to get some air and pull his thoughts together. Being a manipulator is a learned behavior, and yet even though Crowley has been badly treated by his family, he still chooses to be a pretty nice guy.
Shut it! I'm a demon, I'm not nice.
So that's a pretty big no on the manipulator list. As for the victim's side of the checklist, they would display consistent behaviors of a sense of powerlessness. While in this moment he does seem weakened, this is not one of his consistent traits. Negative self-talk, self-sabotage, and lack of self-confidence. Or loss of self-identity. Definitely not. He thinks very highly of himself and knows who he is and what he's about.
Aziraphale.
Frustration, anger, and resentment. In this scene, for sure. Consistently enraged? No. Isolating yourself from the outside world. He's not isolating himself. Self-destructive behaviors. Nothing that he realizes would be self-destructive until later, and then he tries to fix it. Inability to instill boundaries. This is a big one because neither one of them know how to set these kinds of boundaries. They never really needed to learn until the dynamic changed with this kiss. So not a consistent behavior. Freeze, fight, flight, or fawn. Most commonly he chooses fight, and it's not usually aggression personally sent towards Crowley. Aziraphale saves his sass for those interactions.
Not good enough. I want a proper apology.
Feeling on edge, only because the world is ending or they might get erased from existence. Trust issues. Hardly. He trusts Crowley with his life. Literally. S.A. No. Sacrificing your own needs. Yes and no. These two have a pretty good give and take in this respect too. So that's a big no for Aziraphale being a victim as well. Consent really does depend on the individuals, as well as the people together within the interaction, and where their headspaces are at the time, as well as who they are generally speaking, as well as what they're used to experiencing from and with each other. Because Aziraphale is so used to Crowley's aggressive behavior, it's more of the kiss element that is surprising and foreign. I do not see Aziraphale as a victim because he's proven repeatedly that he can handle himself and is totally willing to stand up for himself, albeit mostly only around Crowley or the humans because heaven's a little more difficult. In my own words, if Az hadn't wanted to be kissed, he would have had enough confidence in his self-worth and his capabilities that he would have stopped it.
Ladies do not start fights, but they can finish them.
I mean, this dude acts like a Hufflepuff. Hard work, patience, loyalty, and honesty. Masquerading as a Ravenclaw. Intelligence, knowledge, wit, and observation, but actually is a Gryffindor. Courage, daring, nerve, and chivalry. And for Crowley, is Slytherin too easy? I mean, he's literally a snake walking around in a human meat suit, but also he ticks all the boxes for Slytherin. Resourceful, cunning, loyal, ambitious. Sneaky, he likes to think so, and clever. Normally, a Gryffindor and Slytherin pairing isn't expected to work very well, but because they both lean so heavily towards an optimistic Hufflepuff-related side, the relationship works for them. The natural, loving, caring, and optimistic nature of both of them is why the kiss is more consensual than at any first anxiety-driven glance. The thing is, this whole human concept of consent does not fully apply to these two characters because they're an angel and a demon. And now I've just knocked down my tower. You're welcome. We know for a fact that both of them have very fictionally based senses and understandings of what human love is. Crowley references movies,
I saw it in a Richard Curtis film.
and Aziraphale largely references Jane Austen,
You remember Jane Austen?
and neither one of those are a perfect or very accurate representation of IRL love lives. Crowley likely thought, hey, true love's kiss. That always works for humans, it usually saves the day, and it gets the couple together in the end. Let me try that right now! And then it kinda backfires on him.
I forgive you.
Sorry to burst your bubble, bud, but true love's kiss is most commonly considered fantasy. To our understanding, neither Crowley nor Az have had this kind of physical interaction, so it would make sense that Aziraphale's first thought is, what is going on? And then he has the realization and accepts the kiss. It doesn't actually fall along the same lines of consent that I see regularly argued and that I mentioned, because a kiss was not an action that these two would normally consider to be something that would happen between them. It would be considered a very human action and likely unnecessary for celestial beings. But because this is Crowley's last-ditch effort and they have been working so hard on encouraging Nina and Maggie to fall in love with each other, this true love concept is the track that Crowley's train of thought is on, and it causes a jumbled mess of emotional train wreck in the end. In the Good Omens world, where we're looking at an angel and a demon who do not understand human love trying to make sense of their first kiss, was this consensual? I would say it does eventually turn consensual. Any personal issues I have with it is more about A, me still needing to work on my own traumas, and B, these two needing to learn more about human love and what humans consider consensual. Also them figuring out what each other's preferences are. I will reference this video here and link it because this YouTuber describes their love languages very well, and much more in depth than I will in this video. Crowley prefers gift giving and Aziraphale prefers words of affirmation, and they've both gotten pretty good at embracing each other's love languages. Although I personally think, here Angel, let me smash my face against yours and surprise the hell out of you, isn't the greatest present. As I mentioned in my last Good Omens kiss video, this is very much about them lacking communication skills and them still needing to work on how to talk to each other about their feelings. The thing is, if I'm looking at this scene from the world that I'm living in right now, a world where there is a need for the Me Too movement, a world where anxiety and PTSD is so dishearteningly common, a world where people feel they have the right to hurt others because they've been hurt themselves, is this kiss consensual? I would have to say no. There are arguments that surprise physical contact can be consensual. There are the arguments that these kind of surprise actions do happen in healthy relationships. However, in a world where healthy relationships can be very difficult to come by, and so many people are traumatized by similar surprise actions, it's most often healthier as well as helps your partner to feel safe if you ask about certain actions being okay. Not having to verbally check in if something is okay comes with experience in getting to know each other, learning each other's physical body language, as well as understanding each other's facial expressions. It also comes with having a healthy relationship, as well as being healthy in yourself, having worked on yourself and knowing who you are and what you need in a relationship. Sadly, neither Aziraphale nor Crowley were at this point in their lives when this kiss happened. This being their first kiss, it would have been a lot less traumatizing for Aziraphale if Crowley had made it a point to check in, getting eye contact and making sure that physical contact was accepted before moving in. Yes, plenty of other issues swirl around this trauma, but I'm simplifying it by focusing on the kiss. This is about them needing to work on themselves more before coming together. Largely, they need to pull together their own thoughts and understanding of what they know and want about and from this relationship. Once they've both come to their own conclusions, then it is due time for a healthy convo on how they want things to go from here. These two being split up by the end of season 2 will give them that time they need to pull their thoughts together, and hopefully by season 3 they'll start working on their communication skills with each other and get some things figured out. Also, we have Metatron lurking about, being another aspect in this situation that makes Aziraphale uncomfortable. But that's another video. So remember those subs, comms, thumbs, and a ding? And welcome to the madness.